Flip, Floss, and Fly, presented by Say It Loud Canada, the ultimate financial literacy program, brought to you by the Black Business and Professional Association and the Donald Reid Estate. Here are your hosts from Flip, Floss, and Fly, Andre Smith, financial literacy expert and poet, Farley Flex, social activist and entertainment trailblazer, and Roderick Brereton, social entrepreneur and conflict management specialist. Okay, on that note, again, a wonderful a wonderful morning to everybody. Hoping everybody is doing well. Hoping that you're able to enjoy some of this sunshine that we are right now in Southern Ontario. Apparently it's going to be at 20 degrees on November, what is this, today, the 7th. So that's unprecedented, and we definitely welcome that. We welcome all warm and sunny weather. You know, we'll take the rain and then the snow when we have to, but you know, we're geared and poised to take this in and just have that enhance our melanin. Okay, so this morning, we're going to be exploring our investment opportunities, and we're also going to be hearing from the financial guru himself, Andre Smith. What's going on today, Andre?
Yeah, it's pretty good. So I don't know if anyone been following the stock market this week, but it's actually pretty interesting that the market has reacted favorably to the election of, well, he hasn't been elected yet, but to the possible election of Joe Biden.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. And
the Biden time.
Yeah. And one particular industry that is key on my radar is the ganja, the weed industry, because he had talked about decriminalizing marijuana across the US. So that would be very interesting, and I can imagine how the market would react to such a news. Yesterday and the day before, Aurora Cannabis, and I believe on Thursday went up 40%, and yesterday went up over 70%, so over 110% gain in 2 days. So
you can literally say the Aurora stock lit up.
Exactly. There you go.
Good one, Roderick.
All right,
yeah, that's a good one. Perfect timing.
The words of Michael. Good one, Roderick.
All right.
So can I?
Yeah.
Can you give me the privilege to share my screen?
Absolutely, 100%. So before we get started with you, Andre, we're gonna have a special guest that we have. She's been with us for several weeks. Her name is Marissa, and let me just make you co-host here. And we're gonna have Marissa share a piece that she's written with us. And I guess just to start off with a different note today. Marissa, are you there with us this morning? You got to unmute yourself, my friend.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you
yes,
loud and clear.
Loud and clear.
All right. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good stuff. So, we're going to get right into the poem, and then we'll ask you a couple questions after, and then, just bring it to our audience, bring it to the people, and allow them to see what you've been working in terms of your craft on for the last, well, actually, we'll talk about that after. So let's get right into it. All right.
So once again, hi everyone. My name is Marissa. I hope everybody's had a good morning so far. This is one of my first pieces that I ever written, so I just kind of wanted to share it with you guys. And it's called Look Closely. I don't want my kids to come into this life and feel like they have to fight for what's right. People are dead. People are dying. What can we do to stop all the crying? Can we ever be safe, or is that just a fantasy? To be treated unequally seems like pure blasphemy. I love my identity and my nation, but to speak on my culture causes hesitation. Nothing has changed, just way more tragedy. Everything we have is built on insanity. Young boys and girls being told not to feel, because facing the truth is too hard to deal. When did the N-word become a greeting? When it has a truly offensive meaning, there is clearly a divide. We need to stop acting like there isn't another side. We are caught in a loop. As a society, we need to stop making excuses. It causes anxiety. From past to present, nothing has changed. Perception of history has been exchanged. Look closely. See what's ahead. Nothing is impossible. It's all in your head. See to the future. Don't take a step back. Your actions today might cause an attack. I want to set an example for generations to come. Never forget where you came from. I don't want my kids to come into this life and feel like they have to fight for what's right.
All right, all right, all right.
La, 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 la.
Marissa.
I don't know, Miss Kitty
All
voice.
right, all right. Let's get some words in the chat. Let's hear what y'all think. That was beautiful, Marissa.
That's pretty good.
Absolutely. In terms of some of the challenges that we're working with in our community, but obviously the optimism and the end of the light that we see, the gold pot, if you want to call it that. So yeah, we're hearing amazing job, amazing, fantastic. Air horn 3 times. What? All right. So how long have you been working on that, the poetry, Marissa?
Honestly, I want to say it's a little bit recent. I entered a contest in 2019, it's actually on my wall, and I got an honorable mention in it. It's I believe it's called the Marion Drysdale competition.
Okay. Excellent.
And ever since then, oh, sorry, you want to go?
No, go ahead.
For me, it's kind of been like a healing process, because like in the past I've went through a lot of things, and then I realized, oh, I think I can use my voice for something, and maybe people can relate to it as well. So as well as I am healing myself, I think I'm giving people inspiration as well.
Say it loud, my sister. Say it loud. Definitely so. So where can people find your poetry? Can they find it online? Do you have a YouTube, or what's the plans of moving forward?
At the moment, I just have my work on Instagram and trying to work the whole TikTok algorithm thing.
Okay.
So I just like made a new account, and it's called at the Hall of Secrets, because that's actually my last name, Hall.
Hall of Secret.
Okay.
You know.
All right.
I can write it in the chat if any.
Yes, please do
put
share.
it, yeah.
Please do share your Instagram with everybody so they can stay abreast to what you're doing, and obviously continue to support what you're doing. And we at Say It Loud and the BBPA and Flip and Floss always support Black talents, and always support the expression of self and anything that's going to uplift our community. So kudos to you for all that you do. Definitely continue to support Say It Loud Canada, and we look forward to seeing your submission there too. All right. Thank you very much, Marissa.
Thank you.
Andre Smith.
Yeah, no, that's pretty good, Marissa. You know, one of the things I liked. I mean, I like everything, but I like the fact that you said, when did the N-word become a greeting, right? And I want to know, I would like to know that as well. So that's pretty good. I just followed you, and you know, great work there. All right, so you know, myself, I actually just published my first book. I wrote my memoir, and you know, I started writing it last year, but you know, with some downtime during COVID, I was able to finish everything, and you know, I talked about growing up in Jamaica in the ghetto, and what that journey has been like for me. You know, my journey to university, to Canada, and you know, like it's good that we are having more positive voices in the community. You know, together, you know, we can definitely make a difference. So I really love that, and this is the next piece, the investing, the financial knowledge right? You know, the increase in kudos to you, Marissa. All right, so let's get to the bottom of things, or the top, however you want to describe it. But before I get into the discussion, I want to make sure everybody is with me, because we are seeing an evolution, right? There's potentially a change in government in the US, and we don't know what this means for the stock market, but it definitely seems like the market, like I said, is responding favorably to a change in government. So we're going to talk a bit more about you know, investing and fundamental analysis. So in the last session, we weren't able to finish the conversation, so we're just going to pick up on where we left off. Hopefully everyone had a chance to do the first part of the assignment, right? Which was to figure out the industry that you wanted to do further analysis, right? So you had to pick an industry, and then we're going to look at specific companies to do some fundamental analysis that will assist us in our decision making. All right. So I'd love for the session to be as engaging as possible. So please ask questions, right? You know, there, you know, myself and, you know, Farley and Roderick and Michael, there's Camille, there's Jamar. There are people on here who are actively investing in the stock market and have knowledge. So let's utilize all the knowledge in the space. All right, so let me just share my screen here. All right, so how is everybody doing today? Everybody irie? Give me some response in the chat. Everybody irie? If we're not irie, we can't continue now. All right, so everybody can see my screen?
Yes.
All right, good stuff. So, all right, so let's just refresh quickly. What is fundamental analysis, right? So fundamental analysis is taking a more detailed look at a particular company or even an industry to gain a better understanding of that industry or that business, right? And so when we do fundamental analysis, this helps us in our decision-making process, right? So a lot of times people, you know, say to me, oh, I can't bother with fundamental analysis. It's too much work. Why don't I just buy something that somebody recommend? You know, when you move from fundamental analysis over into FOMO, which is fear of missing out, and just buying something that somebody recommend, you are moving away from investing to gambling. So the more you move away from, you know, fundamental or technical analysis, that you move over into gambling, and that poses significant risk, right? Not saying that you can't be profitable. You can be profitable, but it increases your risk. So what can we do to minimize risk? And what is risk? Risk is the potential that you will lose some or all of your invested capital. And capital is the amount of money that you invest in a particular stock. All right? Okay, so I'm not trying, because the last time I agreed, say, yo, when I use certain words, I'm going to explain all of them. So you see me explain capital, I explain fundamental, and I'm explaining everything, right? If I'm not, just stop me if you don't understand a particular word. All right, so we said, you know, we can start with an industry analysis. So before we go into the discussion, can people from the chat share with me, you know, which industries they've come up with and why? Let's have a little conversation about that before we go into further discussion. So if you can turn on your video, state your name, where you're from, and the industry that you chose and why. So let's have a chat about that.
Let's go in the food industry. Let's see if we can get some Loblaws or Sobeys shares.
Anyone? All right, I only see 3 Irie in the chat. Hold on, I'm not calling too much people up on here. 27. I need more than 3 Irie, and I need more engagement. Come, people. We're in what, week 22?
I'd be interested in.
Sorry.
Okay, who's speaking?
Can you restate, please? We didn't hear who it was or what you were about to say.
Seems like we lost.
Okay, it's Carol. I'm just saying that I'd be interested in investing in natural resources. I'm particularly interested in how Africa is so filled with natural resources, and everyone else is going in there, like the U.S., like all these other countries, China. So there must be something there worth investing in.
That's a great point. And from a historical perspective, we know that when the U.S. and the European countries divided Africa into 50, I believe it's 50 or 52 countries, that was their primary objective. They recognized that the natural resources on the continent that vastly superseded what was available in the rest of the world cumulatively. So Africa is known to have the most natural and human resources on the planet. So that's why all the other countries, from Germany to the Netherlands to China to the US, of course, the UK, have been literally raping and pillaging the natural resources of the continent. But all of that is in the process of change. One of the most recent stories that I can account for that I always brings a smile to my face is the former president of Nigeria removed the Chinese from a project that they were doing. It was developing or designing and building oil refinery, and they wrote the blueprints in an ancient Chinese language, written language that doesn't even exist technically anymore. It's not Mandarin or Cantonese. It's a third old language, almost like how we learn in school about Old English, if you will. And the idea of doing that was so that the Nigerians could never autonomize and operate the systems without being in a dependent capacity. So these things are happening more and more. And the key is for them to happen for Africa to unite as a collective under the African Union, which is a whole other arm of what needs to happen. But yeah, I think that's one of the areas that is definitely worthy of investigation. What you want to do is make sure your timing is right. So the investments right now, if we're going to invest in Africa, should be with African businesses that are in the natural resources business, as opposed to investing in European or foreign countries that have investments in natural resources in Africa. So understand,
yeah, like Dan Gote.
Exactly. So that's a great example. So it's important that if we talk about investing in Africa, we're investing in Africa with Black people, not with foreigners who are raping and pillaging the values and the value and the wealth that the natural resources in Africa possess or have within them. So be mindful of that as you think about investing in Africa.
All right, so that's pretty good. I love that example. And we have Monica. Monica is probably going to go into investment banking, I can tell. Monica.
Hi, so my internet is not working really well, so the image is going to stay off.
Monica, we need your face, Monica. We need that amazing face.
I know, but I don't have enough bars. If you see my face, it'll freeze and I will be gone in 3 seconds. So
I decided
I just went for an industry. I didn't pick a business in particular.
Okay.
But I wanted to invest in technology. Do I cite the pros and the cons of it, or do I just go for the pros?
Sure.
Okay, so
and when you say technology, like what is any specific type of technology?
No, that's why I said I went really wide.
Okay.
I decided technology because there's a lot of the word is expenditures that are expected. It's also had one of the best returns in the market in 2017, and there's like a lot of things in technology. So even if you pick technology, you still have a lot of choices that can be in agreement with most of the people in this call, right? There's more eco responsible things, there's more ethical things, there's less of those things, but you know, you can have a lot of things like artificial artificial intelligence and blockchains. Like I think it was Charlie that talked about it. I think it was Charlie that gave us like a 15-minute lecture on blockchains. It was really interesting. And you can invest in technology without actually having to invest in a tech company per se. Like you can invest in companies that will use technology to, you should invest in them, you know they'll use that money for technology's sake without even having to invest in Tesla or something. Now, my cons were that there's a lot of risks. Like you can invest into a company, like there's a company that everybody's saying, oh, it's gonna be so great, it's gonna be like dope, there's gonna be so many things happening, it's gonna be so great, it's gonna be so much money that's gonna get like out of it, but then it's just gonna fall out and you're not gonna hear about it anymore and it's just eaten up by a big company and gone. And also the returns that you can get are gonna vary from year to year, from situation to situation. Like maybe they had the most popular phone in 2016, but trends and technology, they come and go so quickly. Like it's a business that's super competitive. So even if you think you had a good idea, it might not be a good idea in 3 months. And also I read somewhere that you should not invest in technology more than 50% because of all the cons, but it's still a good idea to do so. And that's that.
Great, Monica. I think if we look at technology over the course of its quote unquote presence in our lives, like one of the things Warren Buffett, anybody who read Buffettology may remember when he talked about the familiarity that one should have with what one is investing in. And that familiarity can come from experiential use. It can come from studying and actually, putting intentional study habits around that investment or what have you. So in this case with technology, if we look at some of the elder folk like myself and Michael on the call, right? When we go back to where technology was, I mean, I've always been a bit of a cell phone. I'm definitely not a junkie. I don't have to buy the new cell phone when it comes out, but I've had every iteration, I would say, since the larger, heavier phones were in, let me put it that way. And I've watched it when Motorola was dominating the market initially, and cell phones were becoming more and more popular. And you started to see other large brands enter into the space. And this is all pre-Microsoft, pre-Apple, Samsung was around, but many of the other brands, what's the other one there? Motorola, there's another one that was pretty prominent back then. Anyway, point being, as you watch things,
that Panasonic was
yes, absolutely, Panasonic was. Now I don't even know if you can find a Panasonic phone anymore. That's right, Michael. And so what you have, one of the key indicators is when you start to see something called planned obsolescence, right? Planned obsolescence means intentional eradication of a product to replace it with something that is going to entice the consumer to spend more. So in Michael and my
was a big one too.
Sorry?
Kodak was another big one.
Kodak was another big one as well. So when you go back, Michael, you'll probably remember when Kodak would come up with the Kodak Instamatic. Then when Christmas came, it'd be Kodak Instamatic Auto Flash. So it now made the previous one obsolete. Then you have Kodak Instamatic Auto Flash Auto Focus. And these are all coming out like within months of each other, which leads one to think that they had the capacity to build the fourth generation of it when they put out the first generation of it, but they're building market momentum so that more expenditure. iPhone is a classic example. Like if you guys tap yourself on the shoulder, if you have an iPhone 11, right? There are many people on this call who still have an iPhone 6 or lower. I think Rod has an iPhone 4.
I thought it was a 1.
Right? So, but again, that's all part of the planned obsolescence psychology. You want people to feel like they're not keeping up with the Joneses, which is something Andrea, I think we should actually talk about one day, is do a segment on keeping up with the Joneses, because our community is massively
Can we keep up with them?
Pardon me?
I'm just kidding. I was just saying, can we keep up with them?
No, that's the thing. You never can. And that's what it's like an addiction, right? You can never keep up with the Joneses technically, right? Especially if your resources don't match what the Joneses' resources are. So
precisely.
So to Monica's point is that with technology, we have to be mindful of the progression and the fact that what the internet has done pardon me, open up the playing field from open source stuff on the internet to actual what's the word I'm looking for? Intellectual property that is available for public consumption to some extent. You have to recognize that people can replicate other people's ideas at a faster rate in history than ever. So if I come up with a cell phone right now that is embedded in your temple, right? By the time I release that, within a few months, other brands are going to have that exact same product, even though it was my idea and I thought I had all the proprietary information. Technology allows people to replicate other people's ideas at a faster rate. So that's when Monica talks about a stock might come and go, is because somebody might come and surpass it from a marketing standpoint with the same efficiencies of product value and product usage. But be mindful that when you have to look at the history of a company, their market presence, right? And their marketing style, like iPhone has created like a culture at first. When people first got their Apple computers, it was all people who are identified as very advanced people in technology. So then the regular folks said, I want to be like them, right? And that's when the Macs were pink and green and aqua colored and all these different colors, gold color, et cetera, and it became very appealing. So as we investigate from a sensibility standpoint, make sure we're mindful of the potential longevity of the value of that stock in a nutshell.
And
So I'd like to talk about where I think we can put the investment. I know Jamaica Stock Exchange is a good place. And the food industry in particular, the Grace Kennedys and the Diamonds are, two big food chain that one can put investment in. Locally, I think in Canada here, again, I would go with the food industry. We have the Sobeys and the Loblaws that are places we can put the funds in.
So Sobeys, what's happening with Sobeys, Michael? Because they're closing down left, right, and center.
Well, they're sort of consolidating.
Okay.
They're in the market now looking for a black face to be on their board to expand their diversity and inclusivity. And so they're actually, they are consolidating for growth. They have had tremendous
they're closing down locations to be meaner and leaner.
Right, they're refocusing because one of the things that hit them big time is the mom and pop stores that grew up around them. Just
Okay.
a lot of their clients, and they weren't going digital.
Primarily the Asian.
Yeah, right. And so, food, as I say, is a primary source. You can't lose on food. Your business can be run poorly and you don't make a profit. But that's a necessity that, it's like toilet paper. Everybody uses it.
That's right.
So I'd say, I know the Jamaica has a stock exchange. And because of what we're coming in with, it could be a first trial over there. And I would say, go for the food, the supermarket chains. Canadian Tire is also a good place to put your investment in Canada. It's a public company, but 49% is really out there. The 51 is still with the family, just like Sobeys. 51 is still with the family, but they're slowly getting into that public space. I hear the thing about technology, but those are good growth stock with you. It's more attuned because we're looking for longevity and sustainability.
Right.
Technology stock is really for the guru like Andre. He's coming into the market and getting out by weekend. And it's fast growth and fast returns. And if you have somebody that's tracking it every week, sort of stuff, yeah. But if you want to put it somewhere, let it grow to maturity, and that sort of stuff. That's the advantage I see. You put it into these longer growth, and you focus more on dividends as against capital gains.
Yeah, and I think what's important to share with the group that one of the in terms of the purpose of this cooperative investment, one of the aspects of it from a life skill standpoint is deferred gratification. So what happens is, and I'm not going to put us all in one box, but if we look collectively at people who are in this hemisphere by virtue of colonization, etc., we as a collective have been deprived of many things. So what deprivation does, just like in your personal life, when you're hungry, right, you might take more food out of the pot than you actually can eat, right? And because you want to be gratified both in volume, how much you think your body feels like it wants to consume, right? And how much visually you also think is going to satisfy your appetite. So it's very important that when we talk about this cooperative investment, we look at stocks, as Michael rightfully said, that are sustainable and more dividend focused than getting in, getting out, because impulsive behavior is part of deprivation. We might feel like, I need that car, I need this, and I need those new True Religion jeans, and that's why kids line up by the thousands when the new Air Jordans come up, even though they have like 15 other pairs at home, right? It's because the deprivation is part of the oppressed culture. It's a symptom of oppressed culture. So we have to be mindful that the Warren Buffetts of the world, they buy a stock and they sit down and they just watch themselves get wealthy, literally.
I'm gonna disagree respectfully with that school of thought. I think there are different investment strategies, and I wouldn't say one is better than the other and one deprives one of the other, or right? So I think if a person is a day trader, there are actually very successful day traders out there who make millions, billions from short-term and medium-term trading. I think at the end of the day, you have to decide, like, the first thing is to decide what your strategy is. Warren Buffett's strategy is more of a value investing. So he looks for companies that are underpriced but have potential. Another person could be a growth investor, meaning that they're looking for tech stocks, like Monica alluded to earlier. And tech stocks, I think different tech stocks, which is why I brought up this chart here about the business life cycle, to talk about how you can mitigate risk in tech stocks. So I don't think it's a good conclusion to say that if a person is a day trader, that it's immediate gratification.
Sorry, Andrew, can I interject for a sec? We're talking about the social imperative of this exercise. I'm not analyzing a day trader versus et cetera. I'm not talking about that side. That's the business side. What I'm talking about is the social imperative of this, to help our people recognize that it's the tortoise and the hare type mentality, right? And I think we've talked about this. This objective is not to make money. So it's not solely to make money, I should say. Let me clarify. It's not solely to make money. It's also for the Black community to recognize that deferred gratification is missing from our social behavior as a collective. Right?
No, I'm not disputing that, Farley. What I'm saying is that if we're gonna talk about the different strategies, we have to talk about them in the right way, rather than saying one is delayed gratification versus not. And I agree, that's one of the objectives about delayed gratification, but we have to talk about the strategies in a different way. We can't say that one.
Okay, that's fair.
Michael, one second, Michael. We want to definitely, there's a couple people who had their hands up for a minute. I want to definitely have them chime into the chat, because obviously we just need to hear from everybody. So
1 second, I just want to wind out, because we're kind of delivering the program. I don't want folks who are listening is of the view that we're loggerheads with what we're seeing.
I know.
The approach that Andre recommended is what we've been doing for the last 20 weeks or so. We have to look and analyze and decide almost individually what we want to do. What is the objective? What is it we're looking for? Yeah. But I think what Farley is saying in this case, for this particular investment that we're talking about, that we have asked folks to come back to us and say, where you want to put this money. I think he's suggesting that the objective for this investment should not be immediate gratification. So we have decided that for all the different approaches and the objectives that we can apply, we're going to apply long-term deferred gratification. And therefore, he's suggesting that in that case, which is in keeping with what you say, Andre, each person has to analyze what is their objective. Mm-hmm. Is it day trading because you want to make a quick profit? Or is it dividends and growth you're looking for?
Yeah, but what I'm saying, Michael, that a tech company is not automatically day trading. You have to analyze where on the life cycle the company is. You can't just say because it's a tech company, it's immediate gratification or short term,
Fair
right?
enough.
So you have to kind of figure out what's going on with that specific tech company before you can come to that conclusion.
I agree with that.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. And I think it really boils down to the research in terms of obviously what we're going to be investing in collectively, and to make sure that we're dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's and doing that
Well,
comprehensive.
it's really the goal, Rod. What I'm focusing is on what is our goal.
Yeah, I know, without a doubt. All right, so let's get to Carol. Carol, you've been waiting on or having your hand up for a minute. How are you this morning?
Hands tired.
Pardon me, I don't think I should have had my hand up. I'm going to lower it. I've said my piece that I wanted to learn more about investing in minerals and African resources.
All right. All right. Thank you very much for that. Terrence, my brother, how are you this morning?
Oh, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. All right. I'm a little apprehensive in order to put this, because realistically, my view is similar and different at the same time, which is
Don't be apprehensive, my brother. Everybody have
there you go.
Hear from
So here's what it is, and what I believe that we should invest in or put a part of it is sort of a model that I put in my head is 10, 10, and 10. What I believe is that we should put 10%, 10. I think one of the message I got from Boyce, Dr. Boyce last weekend was, start at the home. And I can tell you what I'm going to do for my home, and then start as the body, which would be the community, and then go from there. My home, I think for my home, and I think every Black home should have at least $10,000 worth of cryptocurrency, right? And that's a cryptocurrency that's going to be around like a knife. Like I attribute everything to a knife, a butter knife. There hasn't been an evolution in butter knife in years because it's supposed to be around for a long time. So 10%, $10,000 in cryptocurrency. And also everyone in the home in our community should have some sort of, based on my research beyond our conversation last week, life insurance that pays back into the home. And then also other investments like stocks. Now, I know we're talking about stocks here. So what I would say is I would recommend that we really look seriously into cryptocurrency as a community, Black community, because by far the growth in the last 10 years, if everybody do for me, minus 10 years off of their age, if they had invested in cryptocurrency 10 years ago, at that age that they would have been, and now to this day right now, they would be substantially further ahead. Now, as a community, if we had invested now in cryptocurrency 10 years into the future, I think then we'll see the fruition of more Black businesses, Black banks, Black investment. And now when you talk about, when you have that foundation, you invest 10% into the stock markets and things like that. The stock market is so large, meaning that, if we had invested all of our money into Kodak, we would have lost it because Kodak got blindsided by the cell phone. They had no way of seeing that someone with a cell phone is going to take away their digital market. And as Farley says, even though they were evolving, they had a plan, they had a 100-year plan, they got blindsided and taken out. So for the investment, I would say for us, for my home and for us as a group, we should look seriously into the cryptocurrency. We should look seriously into stocks that will stand the test of times. Will this stock be around 10 years from now? Will this stock be around 30 years from now? And how we can do from there. But my base would be cryptocurrency, and primarily the ones that we can get in cheaply that will have growth and will be around just like the butter knife for years and years to come. And that way we can grow. And to fortify that growth, more and more of us need to start looking at insurance, because that's a very low, the reason why, again, is a very low point of entry. Like, last week when we had a conversation with all of us here, and again, I think, if we had put in $100, what I say is, because I primarily focus on young people. If a young person went out and just did $100 of whatever, Uber Eats, or $100 or whatever they do, and just bought some cryptocurrency, by this week that we're sitting here, they would have a few $100s to invest in something else. And to Farley's point, long term, if they kept doing that over 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, then they would be in a very, very strong financial situation. Now, escalate that out to us as a group. I mean, I'm finishing. If we did that, then we would have a very, very strong, because that's how our community will keep money in our community longer. And then we can invest into stocks a lot more. It's about taking the small, growing it into a larger, and then investing and keeping the money within our businesses. And we can help the smaller businesses that are in our community grow. And I think that's the plan. I would say, let's look at cryptocurrency, but look at it as, where would this cryptocurrency be a year from now, 10 years from now? And then if we're buying stocks, look at it, where will it be now and will it be 10 years from now? And technology is where I would go. I mean, and there it is. I don't want to manipulate the conversation. It's so good here. And I think we all need to look at the stock market. If you don't know it, it's just a point of entry. It's very easy for us to get into cryptocurrency. And then with the stocks, the research is much easier once we're doing it as a team. Once you play as a team, it's a lot easier to win rather than doing it as a singularity, because that's how they, with Africa, they divided out everybody so they can conquer the smaller groups, right? Anyways, I'll leave it at that. I apologize to take you off the road.
No apologies.
Terrence,
needed,
this
my
is
brother.
good.
Yeah,
And Terrence, what I would ask you to do, actually, because I agree with you, is if you can give folks, I think I did previously, but if you could do it so they hear it from someone else about the present status of blockchain and the industries that it's already like literally like essential to, and then the industries that it's going to dominate in terms of, like I tell people all the time, blockchain is the internet on steroids. People don't realize it because they can't see it, right? But you know, when I bought my blockchain, my cryptocurrency, right? Everybody was like, "What?" Again, a lot of people were like, immediate gratification. Oh, Bitcoin's gonna kill me, right? You know, and that's what happened, right? But I don't even look at it, to be honest. I don't. I can't remember how much. I think I put like 5 G's.
All right, let me.
Incidentally, guys, Canada has got the most cryptocurrencies.
That's right.
Don't hear about it, but Canada has got the most
cryptocurrencies. I mean, blockchain and cryptocurrency and all the other things, I do not want to take you guys off of tangents. I plug in for the information and the content, but realistically, I don't want to take you off the rails, but realistically, you can buy a bank, you know, you can buy a bank for $100. And in your family bank here, for $100, you have your cryptocurrency, which is safer than any bank. And it's managed by you, operated by you, and your family monetize it, which is a digital bank. Once you, as I said, point of entry, I always tell these guys, I say, okay, listen, you do Uber Eats and you make $100, you buy a shoes. I mean, back in the day, we used to buy shoes for $200 and that was it. But now if you buy some cryptocurrency, which is you can do off of pretty well almost everywhere now online, you put that $100 in, that $100 investment has paid into the future, that now we can use that to buy more stocks. We can use that to, 10 years from now, or even 3 years from now, that $100 is growing in that wallet that's in your house. And we can use it as a collective and invest in Black businesses, in the first Black banks, to help more Black people get more things like that. And I think, like I said, my simple thing is, for my house, because Boyce says start with your house, 10,000, we start with 10,000. We start with 10% of whatever we make, mother, father, sister, cousin, if my son has a paper route, if you're whatever, they say, hey, that's how we start educating, say, hey, put 10% into something that will grow for us, whether it's saving, whether it's stock, because, and then that will grow. And then as a community, the last 10, because I do 3 10s, help 10 families do the same thing, right? So $10,000 in cryptocurrency, that's going to be around 10,000, insurance, because insurance will fortify the home. Because if someone passes away, that insurance payment will pay back into the home. and help 10 families. And if we did that as a community, can you imagine you help 10 people and that person helped 10 people and that person helped 10 people, and no one else, it's decentralized in the fact that no one can touch it, no one can destroy it, and no one can take it away. I mean, in Kodak and even BlackBerry was supposed to be here. BlackBerry was dominating the space in the phone industry, and they're gone now. And that's why stocks, we need to invest in stocks, but also you need to have a strong foundation. So if we're going to invest, I think we should look at cryptocurrency, look at our homes, and look at how we can help other people educate themselves and say, hey, listen, $100 you got your bank, and $100 you start your first investment. And now we start learning as a team and growing as a team with platforms like this, you stand on the shoulders of giants, is what I say, because you get the advantage of learning from Farley, learning from Roderick, learning from everyone here, and then we do it as a collective, and we'll win as a collective, and pay back in to each other.
Well said, my brother.
Great.
All right.
Great.
We're gonna we're gonna go to Amanda, and then Sankofa. We wanted to speak after that.
Yeah.
All right. So Amanda, thank you very much for waiting.
No problem. Cool. Hi, everyone. Sorry I missed last week's meeting. I was moving, but I wrote some notes because I agree with Terrence's perspective as well as Monica's perspective. So in terms of Terrence, I agree with I have no qualms with blockchain. I just don't understand it. So definitely need to learn more. But for me, I'm thinking the starting at the home and future sustainability. So let's say, for example, insurance like Manulife Financial, they were the largest Canadian insurance company in 2019. I wrote some notes, sorry. So with total assets amounting to approximately 800 billion Canadian dollars. So they work in financial services, insurance products, financial protection, wealth management products. They're in Asia, Canada, US. They have global wealth and asset management, corporate wealth management. So that's something to consider. And I think everyone in this room, if they have insurance, they've heard of Manulife at some point. So that's in terms of thinking at home. And then for Monica with the tech sector, I've been thinking more in terms of health technology. So for example, everyone being at home during lockdown and COVID, no one can get to their doctors. So I've been looking into a company called CloudMD. So they trade under doc.v. And they're digitizing the delivery of healthcare by providing patients access to all points of their care from their phone, tablet, or desktop computer. So they have interest in healthcare and rehab services. They're headquartered in Vancouver. I'm a big fan of supporting, the country we're currently in, so Canada and that economy. And currently they're buying out other smaller companies and growing quickly. So for example, they've been working through acquiring a bunch of smaller companies in the US. And this company is really serious about taking more market share in the US, where Teladoc is dominating currently. And then my last one I've been thinking of is funeral homes and cremation. I know it's really bummer to think about, but at the end of the day, it's sustainable because people will die all the time. That's just part of life. And we need somewhere to put these people, put them to rest, lay their souls to rest. So I've been thinking about Park Lawn Corporation. So they're the largest publicly traded Canadian-owned funeral, cremation, and cemetery provider. And they're the fastest growing company in the industry in North America. But I'm still doing research on that. But when I think of starting at home and thinking sustainable, I think about when we're alive and our health during that time, as well as the time where we need to go.
So, can you put all that in the chat, please, Amanda?
Absolutely.
Yeah, just so I put the CloudMD stuff, but if you could put the rest, you were talking faster than I can type, which is not a reflection on
Sorry.
It's a reflection on my typing, not your talking. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm happy to add it to the chat. Thanks for letting me say my piece.
Yeah, appreciate it. Very insightful.
Yeah,
very insightful.
And I think us investing into a dying industry like Park Lawn would be a good move for us. You guys got that pun again? I'm on the roll.
Very good.
You're rolling uphill.
Dying industry. I love that one.
All right. Kofa, my brother, how are you this morning?
Fantastic. Most time I just listen because they tell me that one of the most important things is for us to invest. You have to invest in things. And if you want to be an investor, you have to invest in learning investment education. So one of the first things is just like you invest in school, and most of the time we don't learn anything from the institution. They can only train us. So we have to be inspired. So what I'm suggesting is whatever we're talking about, we need to invest more in it. And I want to talk about strategies right now. So in terms of real estate is always a good thing. Yep. For us as an African people, looking at Pan-Africanism, we need to have a conversation about land and development. And then because the work I do work around countering anti-Black racism. One of the work that I'm working on now is not just looking at like the stock market, but I'm looking at how can we go into cooperatives, because I work in Toronto community housing across Rexdale, and it's a global phenomenon. I don't know, somebody call it ghetto, but it's man-made construct where, people is deprived of knowledge, people deprived of education, people deprived of basic rights to life. And when I travel in these spaces globally, whether it's in Haiti, Jamaica, wherever I've gone, I realized two things. The mindset of our villages that are struggling, we need to run to it with a certain deference. So if I'm looking at certain communities right now, I'm looking at how do we get the community to work in a cooperative collective? Because the only way to change one circumstance is to own it. Then how can we start creating their own banks? And one of the things that I know a lot of us have forgotten, I heard it a few times on this channel, is about Susu, partner. And, it's one of those things when I talk to younger people where it's stocks and blockchains and all of them things, they look down on it. I'm not saying everybody does, but a lot of people say, hey, you're not getting compound interest. Well, the idea, compound interest is only one aspect of investing. The Susonomics, we call it sociology, is developing trust, is developing and your own money. Because when the Europeans came into our community, not only did they tax us, but they gave us a higher interest rate. So I am looking at land, I'm looking at cooperatives, I'm looking at Susu. I'm also looking at how do we develop our own Bitcoin, our own cryptocurrency, so to speak. Because if a coin is I got a piece of land in Senegal, I'm interested in that. Right. But how do we get to develop our own crypto? Because we have the intelligence. How do we develop our own platforms and social media? We are the most consumed consumers. We are the brightest people and sometimes the dumbest. So, sometimes as a poet, I use the word intelligent food. We can develop all the things that we are invested in, right? Because we, as the first people, we have built the pyramids. Pyramids is ours. And I just wrote a poem the other day. I'm not giving it up. I am the first. Everything starts with African, the African mother, right? And so if we went into our intelligence, emotional intelligence, our financial intelligence, most of our cultural memory of intelligence, I don't think we can lose. So there's a lot I said, but if I were to go back to the work I do in Rexdale and across Canada and the world in terms of developing communities, is to go back in a simple sit down with the people, sit down with the young people, because we have attacks from within and without. And let me just give you a quick example. I had a family in Arpington, Rexdale. They're going through different struggles of life, whether it's poverty, whether it's just working 10 jobs. And the other day, 5:30, the police kicked down their door. The police kicked down their door at 5 p.m. in the day with smoke bombs and attack the family, destroy their homes. And at the end of the day, they'll say they were searching for a weapon. They didn't find any weapon. They didn't arrest anybody. So now I'm going in and I'm thinking, as the work I do for 30 years, the violence are within and without. So now I'm trying to deal with this family who's now scared of the police, traumatized, but they're also in a place where the children want to move out of the area. So how do I capture all the things? How do then we transform Black lives? And I think we need to also have a comprehensive plan. I've been part of the BBPA from in the 80s. I used to be part of a group called the Young Professionals. In the 1980s, 89 and 90s, the reason why I refused to attend any more thing with the BBPA was it felt to me like we were not developing the Black minds. But I don't always walk away from things. I can always come back. I don't hold deep feelings because I'm a business person. And so I jump on these calls and I will intercede whenever I have something to say, and I will listen most of the time. So I think I've said enough and I'm getting too excited. So I'm gonna keep quiet.
All right.
That's great, Sankofa. You touched on some really, really relevant points and always very insightful. But yeah, I totally understand what, you know, well, I agree, number one, with what you've identified as investment opportunities. You covered the spectrum of what we should be doing. Again, going back to, if you look at how we consume as a people, we tend to overconsume for a number of reasons, both practical and psychological. But at the end of the day, that's what we're familiar with. Is what we're familiar with is what we're familiar with, and therefore there's greater knowledge in those spaces. So,
all right, and I appreciate just the various streams that people are coming with right now, and it only goes to show that obviously there's just not one way that we could get to our goals. There's several strategies, there's several roads that we could take to get to that end goal of building wealth in our communities, and also in terms of showing our children and the future generations how we've done it. So brilliant, everybody who's contributed to the conversation. Andre, we'll get back to your graph here.
Amanda, that's a very interesting model. I've never thought of it in that way, the life health debt model. So definitely it's good to have these discussions to get different perspective. Right. I'm just gonna answer one question I think Marissa had about how do you get in the stock market. So yes, Marissa, if you go to any one of the big banks, and for example, TD Direct Investing or CIBC Investor Edge, you'll just sign up for the type of account that you want, whether it's TFSA or margin account. It will ask you for your SIN, and that is because any profit or loss, they usually create a T statement for you at year end that goes to the CRA. So they need your social insurance number. But as long as you're using any of the major banks, you shouldn't have any problem in terms of trust. All right, so I wanted to touch on a point that Monica raised earlier, but the conversation has been terrific. So just want to talk about risk of Marissa, sorry, it's not Marissa, Monica. Monica talked about tech stock and it being very risky, and that is very true. So I really like the fact that Monica brought in risk into the conversation, because when you're analyzing and making your investment decision, you always want to factor in risk, right? So in terms of tech stock or for any company, we can look at the business development life cycle. So what this is, it's a model that is used to kind of figure out what stage a company is in, right? Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
And at different point of the cycle, a company is exposed to different realities and different risks, right? So let's look at the life cycle for a second. And this is something that you can use as part of your analysis when you're making your decision, and over time it will become easier. But again, the model is called the business development life cycle. And so right here is the beginning phase of the company. If you look at the life cycle, each company starts with the idea or the beginning phase of the company, right? And this is right here, inception. So as you can imagine, that a startup company would be exposed to far more risk if they're at this stage, right? The startup phase where they're just establishing. So if you're looking at a tech company that is just starting out, they are going to be at this stage of the cycle. However, when you're analyzing risk, a company that is extremely risky doesn't mean that it's not a good investment. You can also look at whether or not it's a disruptive technology. So a disruptive technology similar to what Farley alluded to earlier with the whole Kodak, where smartphone came and they replaced, in the smartphone, you can take picture, you can record everything. So a disruptive technology is something that disrupts an existing technology, right? So even though a company might be in a startup early phase, right, you can look at whether or not it's disruptive. And even though it's risky, that might be something for you as an investor to say, what, you know what, it is risky, but I'm still interested in this company because of the future potential for growth. And that's what happened with early stage investors of Tesla and other companies that are in the tech field, right? But as you go along the business development life cycle, your risk starts going down, right? The risk is start minimized, right? So in the early stage here, a company is going to be focusing a lot on research and development, marketing. So these are the type of costs that a company will be exposed to at this time. So they're going to spend a lot on research and development and advertising and marketing, right? As a company start hitting the growth phase, which was certain companies like Apple, they were at the growth phase for a while. And at the growth phase, you can expect more profit, more stability, less risk, increase in cash flow, right? Less advertising, less research and development, because as the company reaches a growth stage, it means that they're more known, right? And so you have what they call a shakeout. So this is where, those strong companies, those companies with solid fundamentals and solid management, will remain a part of the industry. And those that cannot remain competitive, they will either go bankrupt or drop out of the game. At the maturity stage, right? At the maturity stage, this is where you start to have a slowdown in profit, a slowdown in revenue, and your costs start to increase, right? A lot of your overall business expenses start to increase at the maturity stage because it becomes more competitive, right? And just like we said with Kodak and all of those industries, once you come out with a disruptive technology and you have competitive advantage, a competitive advantage meaning that you have an advantage over your competitors. By the time you reach maturity stage, a lot of people are going to be doing the same thing that you're doing, right? And so you're going to have a slowdown in profit and you start to split that profit with everybody else. What's going to happen, you will find that once a company hit maturity, they'll start to do a lot of promotional things to stay afloat. And the major phone companies in Canada are an example of companies that are in the between maturity and declining phase. So what they'll do, they'll give you bundles. So for example, they'll bundle a phone plan with an internet plan with landline, different things. So they start giving you all these promotional packages so that they can increase their revenue. So this should give you like a sense. You can use this model, you can do more research, and this can help you to make that decision and figure out where a company is in terms of the business development life cycle. A company that's at a maturity stage faces a different risk than a company that's in the early stages. A company in the early stage faces the risk of going out of business altogether and not making it anywhere, and they're stuck with a lot of expenses, lawsuit, etc. A company at the maturity stage is exposed to declining profit, going out of business, being bought out by another company, etc. Right? So the risks are very different based on where the company's at. So Monica, this is a model that you can potentially use when you're making your decision around risk for tech stock or any other industry.
Yeah, okay, well, you just answered my question. I was asking, is that only for tech companies or is that for any industry?
Any industry.
Okay, and can it look different for like certain companies? Like, can certain companies have a longer launch or a shorter launch and then a shorter shakeout? But like,
of course.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. Some companies will be at this phase for a long time, right? And it takes them years to get out of that phase because of the nature of the business. Right now, I am invested in an early stage tech stock that will be providing breathalyzer to police and other law enforcement agency, right? They are focusing a lot on research and development. And so they're in the early stages, and that is going to take a long time. So a company that's in that field might take a longer time, whereas a company, let's say something like, let's say you start a baking company, you might not be in this phase as long because you're just going to be baking stuff and you know what I mean, putting it out there. So it depends on the industry and the type of business that you're doing. You can be in the early stages a lot longer, or a maturity stage, or whatever the case may be.
What you'll find also too, Monica, is that this curve that you're looking at is applicable to actual life itself. Most of the things that you do or you'll encounter follow this particular curve, you know, depending on how long you're in a certain phase. But, you know, even in your own personal life and the different things you do, you'll find that if you were to plot it over time, it mimics this curve that Andrea have here. So it does work for everything, all industries, all businesses, all stuff that you want to look at.
That's a good point, Michael. Yeah, it can work for your personal life as well. Your growth phase, career, anything. It's a model that can be applied to pretty much anything.
What's the difference between cash and profit?
Good question. All right, so I'm going to answer your question, but I want to challenge you to try. You've been one of our vocal people. I'm going to challenge you to try.
So maybe profit is the gain, and cash is money that they'll take out from the bank or any person willing to give them liquidity. And that's that. But I don't understand how profit can be before cash. Like in the beginning is higher, so I might be wrong, but I tried.
Yeah. All right. So
I like this question, Andrew. I'm going to take off the hook.
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and I like the fact that she tried.
So let me try to help her first, sure. And I'll put the guru after. So in accounting, there's a concept called accrual accounting, where it's not when you get the cash or when you pay the cash out that you recognize the expenditures or the revenue. So you could be doing a business where you sell everything on credit. You give the guys the goods today and they'll pay you tomorrow. And you could buy everything on credit, where you get the goods today and you pay tomorrow. So no cash is transfer hands, but you're showing a profit. And it's not until you actually make the absolute payment or get the absolute payment in cash that the cash and liquidity you talk about start to move in the system. So this, I'm not sure what answer the guru is going to give you, but I can tell you that profits is an accounting concept a lot, and they tend to separate economic profit from accounting profit. And so that is why you can have cash, which is negative at the start, and grow as you start to collect from revenue sources and so on. Mm-hmm. But you can actually show a profit or a loss. Hope I haven't confused it too much.
No, but
I need to put a goal. Andrew,
let me say no, Michael, you said it pretty much similar to what I'm going to be saying. Perfect. Let me see if I can. All right, so let me see if I can put it. Yep, you had something to say, Monica?
Yeah. So does that mean that there's a certain industry where cash and profit will always be the same? Like, will basically be similar or not always?
No. So let me see if I can bring
eventually, Andre, over time, your profit should align with your cash. But because of the method of recognizing what's happening in the business, you'll have a gap. Sometimes you have more cash than profit, sometimes you have less cash than profit. But over time, you eventually, those two numbers should come to a grip. Because you can have a business, and in fact, just today I was reading about a company that went under. They were showing tremendous amount of profits, but they weren't able to pay the salaries and their taxes and so on. Right. Because profits are not recognized just because cash is moved.
Right.
You know, profits is recognized because there is expenditures and there's revenue.
Right. All right. And I agree completely with Michael. So look at this, Monica. Let me see if I can explain. So if you have Monica's bakery, right? And let's say you sold some cake, right? For $500, right? So let's say you sell, and keeping it simple, let's say you sell some cake to me, Andre, right? But the cake costs 500, but you said to me, I said to you, Monica, I can give you cash of 250 today, right? And I'm gonna owe you the next 250, right? But the transaction still happened, right? So I owe you. So I write here, I owe you a check of 250, but the transaction still completed. You give me the cake. So when you look at this now on the income statement, where your profit is usually shown, right? Are you following, Monica?
Well, I don't see the graph, if that's what you're trying to show.
No, not the graph. So,
okay.
All right, let's go back. So I sold the cake for 500. You sold me the cake for 500, but I give you 250 cash, and I owe you 250, the balance, right? So I owe you some money. On your income statement, you're going to record sales of 500, right? Because you sold the cake for 500. Are you following so far? Monica?
Yes, I don't know.
Yes.
Oh, you don't see me. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because I have the Word document up. So let's say it costs you, Monica, $300 to make this cake, and the baking and everything, it costs you $300. Now your profit is what is left after your cost, which is $200, right? $200. On your balance sheet, Monica, on your balance sheet, you're going to record cash because you collected cash from me of 250, right? You haven't gotten the rest of the cash yet. You got 250 cash from me, and I owe you $250, which is called accounts receivable in the accounting world. It's called accounts receivable. I don't know if I spell it good. 250. Yeah. So on your balance sheet, you have 250 cash and 250 accounts receivable. Your profit here is 200, but your cash is 250. Do you see now why cash can be different?
Yeah. It explains it really well. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
That was great, Andre. Thank you.
Just remember, Monica and folks, that there are a number of theories of how we do accounting. And one of them is called the accrual method. And that is what all companies work with. Yes. Where it's not when you get the cash or when you pay the cash that recognize revenue, recognize profits. But eventually, once Andre pay you that 250,
I'm gonna pay you.
You like the cash and the profits will dovetail. You see that? We'll sue him in small claim court.
So Andre,
I saw a post on my Facebook from 2010 where somebody borrowed $200 from me. I never paid him back. I'm gonna go up on Facebook, go post it, and it's now 10 years later. Still not get the money, Monica. So you have to be careful with the people with oil.
Andre, could you talk about cash flow since we're in the flow?
Cash flow? What specifically about cash flow?
Whoa.
No, because we're just talking about cash. And so you could say you have cash on the books and you go bankrupt because you don't have cash flow. So it's important then to talk about cash flow within a business, because you see, that's all on the books. But if the people owe me the money, don't pay me, I could show whatever cash I have and I go to business because I can't pay because I don't have cash flow.
Yeah, that's a good point. So where exactly would you get the actual cash that's available in the business? The statement of cash flow, right? Because the balance sheet might show you cash, and that's a really good point there. The balance sheet, well, I think whatever is on the cash flow is usually in the balance sheet, but the cash flow statement, it's the same thing. But the cash flow statement is a good place to look at what's happening to cash, right? If you want more information about what is happening to cash.
Especially in real time, Andre, right?
Huh?
Especially in real time.
In real time, exactly. So let's look at a cash flow statement example for a business.
So while Andre is looking for an example, let me just give you a quick 101 on cash flow. So because accounting is based on the accrual method, the P&L, the profit.
Sorry. Michael, could you just explain what accrual is?
Accrual is,
you may not know that term.
Sorry?
Could you explain what accrual method?
Okay, so the accrual method is you recognize profit, you recognize revenue once you earn it.
Right.
And you recognize an expenditure once you incur it, whether or not there have been a transfer in cash.
Right.
So whether or not somebody pay you for the item you sell them, or you pay somebody for items that you purchase, you recognize the revenue and the expense. And you may pay later, or you may receive the cash later. So when you look at a profit or loss account, all the transactions you see there are based on the recognition that you earn something or you owe something. The balance sheet also reflects that same concept.
Right.
That is why you have the concept of accounts receivable and accounts payable. The cash flow now, which is king, because you go into business to make cash, unless you're a non-profit. Now the cash flow is exactly what it says. It is how cash itself, absolute cash, is going through the business.
Through the business, right.
And it's not on the accrual method, it's on the cash method.
Cash method, yeah.
You know, so it recognized that, okay, as Andre example, $500 was sale. You recognize $500 as revenue, but you only got $250. So the cash flow will not show $500 in sale. It will show $250 in sale. Just with the expense. The expense was $300, but some of the stuff you have, some of the ingredients, you may not have paid for it. The flour, the this, the that, you promised to pay later. Right. So let's assume out of that $300, you have only pay $200. Then the expense on the cash flow will only show $200 going out. So the total movements on your cash flow will be $250 coming in, $200 going out. So the real cash you have in the business is $50, even though you're showing a profit of $200. And that is what I think the individual was asking earlier. Just think about the extreme concept. If you sell everything on credit, and if you buy everything on credit, you can show tremendous amount of profits, but there's not even a dollar in the business.
Yes.
And so two things that will hit you with that. Salaries are always paid in cash. Rarely people work and be paid 2-3 months down the road. And taxes from the government is always paid in cash. So what happened to a lot of companies when they run up what you call working capital challenges, where there's high receivables and high payables, they can end up being bankrupt because they can't pay their tax bill or they can't pay their salaries. So the cash flow is one of the most powerful statements you can have in a business right now.
You know what, Michael? You summarize it really good, and I think this speaks to like more like potential future sessions that goes through like financial statements, right? And because that's a pretty good point. And thanks for asking the question about cash flow, because if a business is operating only on credit, right? So they have all this profit, but it's in credit. Another thing you'll notice, I won't call the company, but what a lot of companies do as well, they record sales or potential sales, depending on where they're reporting from and what the rules are. They might have orders, unfulfilled orders, and they might say, okay, we have all of these potential customers or these orders placed, and they record what the sales might be, right? So if it is that you're looking at a business and there's no cash, because cash is king, cash is the blood of the business. You need cash to survive, right? And if it is that a business is operating squarely on credit, they have all these receivables. Where are they getting the money from to operate? Most likely they're borrowing money to continue to operate.
Yes.
So this cash flow statement, and that's a big risk as an investor. So you definitely want to pay attention to that. So thanks for bringing that up. The cash flow shows you how the cash is moving through the business, and it starts with net income. The reason why a net income, Monica, is synonymous to profit in a so you'll see the start with, some people say profit or net income. But in accounting, Michael and I know that there's a difference between profit and net income. It's net of everything, right? It's taken out after you take out everything. But the reason why it starts with net income is because of what Michael said earlier about those accruals. So in accounting, the transaction, there's a criteria for recording sales. And once that criteria is met, then you record sales, even if there was no cash exchange, right? So a cash flow statement, it shows us the amount of cash that is flowing in and out of the business. And it takes out those accruals that Michael talked about. And here are some of those examples, those accrual examples. Depreciation. Now, depreciation is a construct that is, it shows the decline in the value of the asset. Now, you will find that there's no fixed amount for a business to use in terms of depreciation. So Michael could use 5% to depreciate a car. I could use 10%. So there it varies based on company. So you want to add back that depreciation because it's not a true. It's on your income statement as an expense, but it's not a cash expense, right? It is something that the business. It's a policy decision by the business to show how a fixed asset changes over time, goes down in value, right? So you'll go through that cash flow statement, and I think it would be very, this probably won't make a lot of sense now, but we'll definitely need session that goes through these for people to understand what all of this means, right? But the cash flow, the key number that you want, Monica, if you're looking at the cash flow statement, is cash flow for the end of the period, whether that is positive or negative. If it is negative, then there was no cash for that year, right? So you want to pay attention to this final number. That's for now in the short term when you're making a decision until you gain a better understanding. All right.
And also, Andrew, again, this is just to tell folks on the chat here, it is one of the most complex concepts, and it's also, if you notice, one of the most simplest concepts. But what it says is you're in the business to increase your cash from what you start with. That's why you're in business. Start with $1 and you want to end with $1 plus. And there are 3 areas you can get cash from or use cash in your business. From the direct operations that you're in. So using the baking example, you're in the business of using flour and what have you to bake and to sell. That is the reason why you're in business. So they call that the operations.
Right.
Then you can buy fixed assets, capital assets, the mixers, the blenders, the what have you. And that you invest cash in those fixed assets. And then you may go borrow some money to help you get the business started, and that's from financing.
Right.
So when you look at these business to look at the cash flow, one of the key areas, Andre say you look at the bottom line to see if there's a positive movement in cash. But another thing is that you want to look at the operations itself to see if you're generating cash flow from the main reason why you're in business. If you're in business to bake and sell cake, and that is not where you're getting the bulk of your cash from, it's not going to be sustainable.
It's not going to be a good point.
So, and I think you're right, we may need to have a complete session.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about financial statements and how to read them.
Yeah. You see this person grooming goat. If they're not getting all their money from grooming goat, then you need to go out of business, right? If you're getting the money from something else. But yeah, you'll definitely need to have a further chat about that for people to understand, because as business people, these are some of the statements that we have to understand. They're extremely important, and as investors as well. All right, so going back to some of the fundamentals. So we're gonna have to continue the conversation next week again, but that's fine because this is it's called fundamental, meaning it's important, right? So that's fine. And great question, great point there about credit. All right, so fundamental analysis is a measure of the company's intrinsic value. What is it that company is worth, right? Not only from a cash basis, but from all the activities of the company, what is it worth, right? And in accounting, we call that goodwill, right? All right, so some of the things that we can look at revenues or earnings, we can look at the balance sheet, we can look at the income statement, future growth, return on equity, the business model, the competitive advantage. And as you can see from some of the discussions that we've been having, the reason why the balance sheet is important is because you want to be able to decide whether or not the business is able to sustain itself, right? So we're gonna take, we'll use the time that we have here to look at one item today. We're gonna briefly look at a balance sheet of a particular company, right? And then we will do the next part of the assignment.
Joe Biden won, for those who care.
Yeah, I just saw that too.
When did they do that declaration?
For all the Democrats in the House.
When was that announced? Just now?
Just now, yeah.
Michael.
Myself.
I'm surprised he didn't call you directly, Michael.
Wait, he won the election?
Election, yeah.
Joe Biden won. But Michael, I'm surprised he didn't call you directly.
All right. So which company can we look at? We can look at actual BlackBerry. And somebody brought up BlackBerry earlier. And one of the things I wanna that a lot of people actually don't know about BlackBerry, and the reason why I look for this is because when I took this class called I think it's called management policy or management decisions or something like that. And sometimes you'll find that a business, a particular company, they probably didn't keep up with technology, right? And that particular product or service that they were offering, it died. And so what they do, they shift their strategy. What you learn about BlackBerry that's interesting is that BlackBerry has done the same. And I think Dell and Intel and a few of those companies, they've done that successfully. So BlackBerry moved away from hardware and they're slowly moving more into software, right? So that's the interesting shift that BlackBerry has done quietly or maybe openly. I don't know if anyone noticed, but BlackBerry is more focusing on software like technology, the internals, the internal mechanism of the phone and other devices. So it's interesting to see where that goes. But the investors are predicting that BlackBerry might be bullish, and we've talked about the concept of bullish before, meaning it might go up in value, right?
They just released a new phone again, eh?
Huh?
And they just released another new phone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, but it's probably, like you said, it's probably to as a demonstration mechanism, software, yeah. Right?
Because I heard that they are working on cars too. I don't know, green technology. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting to watch what is happening. All right, so to find the company's balance sheet, so you can Google whatever company it is and the word balance sheet. But I like to go to the investor information or the investor relations section of the company, and you can take a look at the quarterly balance sheet or the annual one, or you can go back in time and look at more historical information. So let's just pull up the most recent one here, just for the purposes of demonstrating. So we're going to start with so this is fiscal 2020. All right, so we're going to look at Q1. So Q4 wouldn't be available because they haven't completed Q4, and Q4 is the fourth quarter in the year. So Q1 is the first quarter, which is January to March, and then the second one would be what, April to June. So we can look at Q1, right? And so here you'll see the first statement is the balance sheet, right? Consolidated balance sheet. And consolidated means that they've combined more than one balance sheet into one. All right. Sometimes you'll see condensed. The word condensed balance sheet means, and that simply means that they've given you a shorter version of the longer version of the balance sheet. So if you say condensed, that's what that means. So on the balance sheet, you'll see the name of the company, BlackBerry Limited, Incorporated. Well, you don't always see incorporated under the laws of Ontario, but usually you'll see the name of the company and the period, the period as at the period. So they were a little bit creative. They put the as at here and the date here, but it should tell you for what period. And a balance sheet is a moment in time. It's different from an income statement. So when you look at an income statement, you'll see for the period, right? For the period means from whatever period they're reporting. So in this case, they're reporting a quarterly statement. So it's what, May, second quarter. So this is March, April. So April to June or April to May, whatever the quarter is. So we're looking at that period. So it would be the end of the period. So let's say BlackBerry is reporting their balance sheet as of December 31st. So the balance sheet would be as at December 31st, 2020. If they're reporting their income statement, they would say the income statement for the period for the period ending December 31st. So the income statement captures the entire period, whereas the balance sheet is that moment in time. So it adds up everything and gives you the number at that moment in time on the 31st, right? So that's why you have the as at versus for the period.
I have a question. Do companies have a legal obligation to get that out, or is it only for public companies?
Good question, and you've answered your own question. So it's only for publicly reported companies that they are required to publish these statements. If you're private, then you're not required.
So private companies are not required, but do some still decide to do it? Or
yes, some will still decide to do it. For charities, they're required to do so as well. So you'll see charity, they disclose their financial statements. So some private companies will also report their financial statements, but it's not required. All right, so we're going to just look at the current assets section of the balance sheet today. So the balance sheet is divided in current assets. So you have the current asset portion, you have the fixed asset, and then you have the liabilities and equity section, right? But we're going to focus on the current asset section today, and then we're going to talk in future sessions about the other sections of the balance sheet. And I'll tell you, if you ever take accounting, in introductory accounting, you always hear people talk about the balance sheet must balance. And yes, it must balance. But there are different ways in which you can arrive at that balance. And as you heard, Michael talked about accruals, which we're gonna talk a bit more about accruals in other sessions. All right. So generally speaking, there's an ordering principle on the balance sheet. You as a investor with no accounting background, you may not know this, but there's an ordering principle. And so that ordering principle is that it starts with the current asset, and under the current asset, Monica uses this term, which is liquidity, the most liquid. They start with the most liquid assets, and cash is the most liquid. And when we say cash is liquid or liquid asset, it means that it can be easily converted to cash. Of course, cash is already cash, so there's no conversion needed, right? And then the next item on this balance sheet would be short-term investment. And so that is investment in, like instruments that are due within a 12-month period, right? That can be easily converted. So it's still your cash. It's in the form of an investment. You can easily call up the bank and say, hey, I need whatever the market value is for this investment, right? So it's more liquid, meaning that it can be converted faster than something like accounts receivable. And Monica, you just learned about accounts receivable, or you may have learned about it before, but accounts receivable is an example of that accrual that Michael talked about. So it is money owing to you. So when you owe one of the phone company, them and collections, I call you, and I might say, oh, Andre, we are calling for the balance that you owe. They're calling for their accounts receivable, right? So it's that money that's outstanding for the company. They report it as accounts receivable. It's still a type of asset. And we can talk about other concepts relating to accounts receivable, because accounts receivable has an age, right? Meaning that it depreciates, it changes in value over time. And so we can talk about that in another session. But here they have other receivables. We don't know what these other receivables are. If we want to know, they might report it further in the statement. They might break down what the other is. But companies will sometimes put other assets, other receivables, other investments, whatever the case may be. So they have some other receivables here that they're not reported on the accounts receivable itself. Income tax receivable, right? So this is money, and this is a type of asset. So you can either have income tax receivable or income tax payable. If it's a receivable, this means that they are expecting money from the government, right? So income tax, they're expecting some type of a refund, so it's a receivable. And as you can see, the word receive before it, right? So it's an account, right? So your account outstanding, and they're trying to receive it, accounts receivable. And the financial statement is usually reported, whether it is quarterly or on an annual basis, on a comparative basis. And that is actually required under International Financial Reporting Standard, because it gives the users, and in this case, we are the users right now. We are looking at BlackBerry's financial statement to use it to make a potential investment decision. So you'll find that there are multiple users of a financial statement. It could be the bank, it could be the government, it could be us as individuals, it could be other businesses, right? So anyone that looks at the financial statement and rely on them, they're considered users of those statements. And users have different needs. Our need here today is to learn how to evaluate a balance sheet, right? And so once you've, the company, add up all the receivables, you have a total amount here, and that is reported as the total account current assets. The other thing I want to highlight is that here, you will note that it says the amounts are reported in United States dollars in millions. So even though you say 358 here, this doesn't mean that BlackBerry has $358 in cash. It's 358 million US dollars, right? So I want to highlight that. So these are just shortened because if you put all those 00 on the statement, it's going to look untidy, right? So they show shorter version of the numbers.
That's a problem you want to have. That's a problem.
Yeah, definitely. Exactly. You want those zeros, but they're here. Don't worry. So I wanted to highlight that. If so, this is required as well. So they have to state the currency, right? If it is in Canadian. And what you'll see is that BlackBerry, so they are reporting in the US dollars, which means that this is their functional currency. And this is a concept that you learn in accounting or finance, that business have functional currency. So for example, sorry, let me go back. A functional currency is the currency that they use primarily to conduct business. So if I do some business throughout the year in Jamaican dollars as a company, but I primarily trade in Canadian, I have to convert that Jamaican dollar to Canadian as at the time of the transaction, right? And then the other thing I wanted to highlight here on the balance sheet is that here it will tell you whether or not the financial statements are audited or unaudited. So unaudited means that a professional who's certified like Michael hasn't looked at the financial statements and expressed an opinion, right? And Michael as an auditor could say, I've looked at the statements and I found a lot of error that are so significant that they could potentially lead to mistake in decision making for investors, right? So that's what that means when it says audited versus unaudited. Unaudited means that a professional hasn't looked at the statement as yet, a certified professional, which is usually a CPA, a chartered professional accountant. However, unaudited here doesn't mean that it's not useful. The information here is still useful. You can take a look at the company and the overall reputation. It's BlackBerry, so BlackBerry has a good reputation, so you can potentially rely on the statements. Another thing to note is that in quarterly statement, it's not required for public companies to have audited statement. The audited statement is only required for the annual financial statements. All right. So when you look at the financial statements for year end, you'll see audited, right, versus unaudited. All right, so I don't want to give too much information about the balance sheet. We're going to look at the balance sheet in closer detail, and we're going to look at other balance sheet in other sessions. But this is it for current asset. Right. Is there any question regarding what we've discussed with the balance sheet, the current asset, the ordering principle, or the amounts, etc.?
And it sounds obviously very complex, but it's very important for people to recognize when we're looking into the stock market to look into people to companies' balance sheets, to do that research, to see in terms of the projections and obviously how they manage their own cash, if this is something that we should be investing in. So definitely, it sounds very, very almost intimidating for the person who may be entering, but it's very important for us to get a grasp on this. And this is the homework aspect of things. Okay.
Yeah, I completely agree. You're learning about balance sheet at a high level. When Michael and I took accounting, we walked through that process and get to the point. So you're learning now at a very high level.
Yes. And another thing you need to look at in terms of the investment and the balance sheets and so on is what is called the dividend policy of the company. Because some companies make tremendous profits, have big cash flows, big cash on the balance sheet, but they're not paying out, they're reinvesting the money in the business. So when we go to public companies or we're going to purchase investment, we want to look on their dividend policy they're in the business of paying out, a certain percentage each year. I'm sorry to run off just now, but I've been waiting 24 hours every day since Tuesday for the announcement. And this is more important. That is why it slipped me.
I'm
Our
buying
section
some
was
beans on
more
Monday.
important. I thought I want to do it on Monday.
That's what I thought.
Otherwise, I would have done it today.
Maybe we should invest in the security company that's going to take to get Trump out of that White House.
That'll be some
Good quality investments. I don't think we're going to make any money there.
Yeah, well, one thing I was saying to Farley and Roderick yesterday as we had our little discussion is we're here talking about the financial literacy, but we must remember we have to talk about total literacy, because a lot of the discussions that's happening south of us really just have to do with people not knowing the facts, not even the truth.
And Michael, social literacy is
everything that you can know, you should try to get to know everything you can know, because there are, they say there's the right and the wrong and the truth. There's so many sides. What you find now in the world is that everything has to do with an interpretation and an outlook. And there's a big difference between facts and opinions and persuasive stuff and what is absolute. And I would just take this opportunity to say to everyone here, every single thing that you can learn, grab all of it, every single thing, because it will help you in all the decisions that you have to make. Well, see, Farley, I've got my call.
All right.
I just got it,
All right, so for I want to touch base on the assignment for the next portion of the assignment. So for the last piece, so we're going to do it bit by bit. So the last one, we looked up the industry, right? And everyone, please share the industry that you look at in the chat and your reason. So now I actually want people to look at specific companies in that sector. So, like, I think Amanda is ahead because Amanda already looked at some companies. But I want you to identify, if each person could identify one or two or even more companies in that particular industry that you've identified, and just say briefly what you value about that company, why you chose it, or why you chose it in general, right? So now we're moving down this ladder. So we've looked at the industry. We're now going to look at the companies. So you're going to choose specific companies within the industry that you've identified and say what you like or don't like, if you want to do both. But I just say what you like about that company, why you chose that particular company, or if you chose more than one company, just say why you chose those companies, right? And after that, the following week, we're going to start the process. So we're going to continue into the fundamental analysis and some of the things that you can look for in that particular company, and then we're going to have that final decision, right? Is this the time for the team part of it, Roderick, or just individual?
Yeah, I think where we went today was good in the sense that people have a little bit more understanding on some of the homework that they really should do behind the scenes. And just in terms of what people presented today, the cryptocurrency, the insurances, the African resources, the funeral homes, and real estate. If people are in agreement with these are some of the areas that we could go into and look into, we ask now that you get some of the specifics in terms of some of the companies.
Not only that. Sorry, Rod, but what's really important here, it's a cooperative. That means everybody moves the leaf, not some people. So if you agree with what's been shared, you have to identify it and say, I like what Monica suggested, I like what Amanda suggested, et cetera, et cetera. You can't stay quiet, folks. And I hate to sound aggressive, but you cannot stay quiet. Our community depends on this kind of thinking. What Michael suggested about social and general literacy is critical to our existence. I don't know if people really get that. It's critical. Kids are dying. Right? I hate to be morbid, but kids are dying on the streets because of financial illiteracy. You understand? And because we haven't collectively bought in to the survival of each other, as Terrence said. The third 10 he talked about was helping 10 other families. So if you're shy or whatever it is, type in the chat, say, my name is so-and-so, I align with Amanda's idea. That you can't just sit back quiet and wait to ride the train.
Okay. And okay. we recognize.
I'm not done. Right? This is imperative. I want people to understand the importance of this, because people slide by, you don't show your face, that's all good. But at the end of the day, we're trying to be cooperative here. Look up the word. Look up the word. We talk about ants moving a leaf. All the ants get under the leaf and move it to the next location to build their new place that they want to habitate, right? We have to take this seriously, right? I can't say it any more than that. Like, we've been saying it for weeks and weeks. Like, a few people came back, that's great. But all of you who are, if you don't understand, ask a question. If you understand, make a statement. If you make a statement, make sure you've got your research done, right? Amanda, how old are you? I mean, Monica, sorry, Monica.
I'm 15.
Come on, guys. Do I need to say any more? Seriously. Do I need to say any more? Okay, that's it. But I'm just hope you guys are inspired. Here's the other last thing I'll say. The BBPA, Flip and Floss, and the Fly Salad, we're contributing $5,000 to your lives. It's a fun experience. We're not trying to say we're going to save the world for you, but it's an experience, a chance for you guys to get involved in your own lives, not in ours, in your own lives, your family's lives. Intergenerational wealth accumulation. We're the only race on the planet that does not get involved in that. The only race. And honestly, once you know that we've been through what we've been through, like Rod says all the time, and it's not a blame game, it's an explain game. We have no excuse anymore, because we have people like Michael and Rod and Andre and Terrence and Amanda and Monica on the call that you could just absorb like a sponge from. But if you sit back and wait for someone else to decide your life, good luck. That's all I have to say. No disrespect to anyone. I love you guys. Like, cook food, or I wouldn't be talking like this, right? But we have to get off our you-know-whats and get involved.
Right. Okay? And we recognize sometimes, obviously, there'll be leaders within the community, people who are obviously investing more in terms of their research and whatnot. And we definitely respect that fact. So, but everybody has a voice, and we need to hear from this voice. In a collective or a cooperative, all voices carry the same amount of weight, right?
That's the beautiful thing right there.
Absolutely, 100%. So we definitely need to hear from all of you. We need you not just to chime into the chat, but be a part of the chat, be a part of the decision-making that's gonna happen, right? So kudos, obviously, to everybody who's been on here, who's listening. And as Farley often says, you know, nobody was born shy. So we need to hear your voices. We need to, and not just to hear your voices, but you have to be seen and heard, because anything else is absurd. Okay, so we have Bertha, who wanted to say something before we wrap up for today.
Can I go after Bertha? Good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate this. I've been working in the Black community, and these are the kind of stuff I see we need. The young gentleman alluded to a whole lot of it, and part of the what I wanted to share earlier was I'm struggling with my granddaughter. I'm babysitting, but the idea of our own human development, and these are intangible. So you know, when we look at investing, we look at more tangible things, like investing into cryptocurrencies and so on. But one of the things for us in the Black community is looking at our own self-development. And I think that's where we need to start. I mean, we can't, you know, hold up the race and say, oh, let's do self first and then we'll catch up. You know, we have to go, you know, side by side. Absolutely. But we really need a high focus on our self-development, which is, yes, intangible. But if we look at that, because we have been endowed with all those creative powers, all of those creativity, we are, you know, naturally gifted. And if we look at our ancestors did it, when we look at Black Wall Street and all of that, we do have a whole lot. I mean, all of this systemic stuff came about, and then we get the confusion, and we were oppressed. And as you say that, you know, there are the impacts of oppression we're suffering from. But we do have, you know, what it takes to look at creatively and innovatively coming with solutions that can look at investing in ourselves, in cryptocurrency, in whatever businesses out there, real estate and so on, so that we can really change the paradigm that's out there. You know, so I wanted to, and then he alluded to that pretty well, looking at how you help people shift the mindset that is really keeping us down. You know, we're actually working against ourselves the whole time, and we're working against each other too. When you look at other communities that they come together, they unite, and then they're able to get on, even if they were oppressed. Chinese had been oppressed for a while too. So, you know, so we can really do that. And, you know, I'm really thankful that, you know, the BBPA has, you know, taken on this initiative. I thank all of you for the time that you're putting in. Actually, I've been taking Friday, Saturday as my Sabbath, but this is really important. And because it, you know, it resonates with what I've been trying to do in the community, bringing, you know, people from insurance companies to speak to them, to, you know, to look at, you know, how they can best use their savings. And when I saw you guys doing this, I said, no, I need to, you know, take some time. So I'm not moving away or hiding. So sometimes the technology, you know, I have issues with technology, or sometimes I'm, you know, kind of working with my granddaughter here.
Well, you're making a point right now.
Amazing.
I have to run, but I want to leave with one celebratory note. That means something we can celebrate. There is a Black bank coming to Canada. There will be 2 locations, Montreal and Toronto, in terms of bricks and mortar physical locations, but it's accessible in terms of obviously online banking to every Black person and anyone who else wants to bank with the organization of any race or whatever it is. But it's Black owned, operated, staffed, you name it. You're going to go in there and you're going to feel like you belong, as opposed to.
Exciting. When is that coming? How soon?
It's about 6 months away, but the approval came from the parent bank, which is GT Bank, which is Guaranteed Trust Bank, right? They're in 12 countries, including England, that Andre will probably tell you, and Michael Wood, has the most stringent banking laws in the world in the UK. Are you aware of that, Andre? Is that something you can concur?
I'm not familiar with that, so that's new to me.
Okay, yeah. So Britain has very, very strict banking laws, naturally, and most banking laws actually derive out of the British system. So that probably tells you why. But the point being, right, these are the kind of things we have to feel in our hearts to feel like we belong in this country, although we know we technically and historically don't belong here. But we are here, and we have to make the best of our presence here. Right. So, I can tell you guys, if you look up these names, these are people who have already said, Farley, I can't believe that I'm in. Isaac Olawalafe, Denham Jolly, Ray South. Look up these names. These are people who understand the benefit of working and supporting Black business initiatives. Okay. When you drive by a bank that you know is owned by a community, you feel differently than when you drive by a TD bank. Trust me.
True.
Okay, so I want to leave you guys with that. I have to run, unfortunately, but I love all you guys, man. Let's just try and just raise our game, just a 5% even. Raise our game, get involved, understand what this opportunity represents. Not just the investment stuff, everything. 22 weeks in, right? 22 weeks in. Okay, that's all I got to tell you. Okay, thanks everybody.
All right, thank you very much for Farley on that note. And our sister Samarath wanted to share something before we.
Yeah. Hi everyone. I just want to mention, for those who are interested in Dususu, I'm working at starting one coming January, and so for those who are interested to participate, I'm gonna put my email in the chat if you guys want to get to know more about it and maybe to participate to one if you're not participating into one already. So I just wanted to.
Okay. Andre.
Sorry, I lost connection.
Yeah, sorry about that. So on that note, it's 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This session was obviously filled with a lot of good information, and I think the information that is provided by yourself and Michael and Farley, it's priceless in the sense of the amount of growth potential that it has for everybody who's on here. And we definitely encourage all of you to continue to chime in the chat. but also to share the knowledge that you're getting from these sessions into the communities that you live in. Because with it, just sitting with yourself, you're definitely not giving the other people in the communities, the amount of information that could be shared. Okay, so on that note, any words to carry us out?
Yeah, I had a interesting conversation with a single mom in the US the other day. She just started investing, and she's talked about her journey and why she wasn't doing this a lot sooner. And it really touched me because it's created so much opportunity for her. And we're doing great work here. We're talking about personal development. We're talking about financial development. And actually, Camille and I, we started this podcast. Well, Camille started the podcast, and she's the host, and I'm the co-host. The things I wish I knew about money. So big up to Camille.
All
She's
right.
there, even though she's not talking every week. She's doing great work in the community to transform lives. So big up to Camille, and follow Camille. Camille, I don't know if you ever share your IG, but the Things I Wish I Knew About Money podcast, and it's very chilled. If you want to come on, just hit me up or Camille, and we can bring you on. But we are here, and we're working with organizations like the BBPA and other organizations because we want this to become the language of the community, right? So on
Absolutely.
that note.
All right. On that note, definitely, we support everything that is going to be helping our community move forward to that next level. So as I say, big up to Camille and Andre on that venture. And stay tuned for the BBPA. We will be continuing to provide opportunities. And I just wanted to say thank you very much to the president. Thank you very much to the treasurer, Michael Pinnock, for allowing this platform to obviously exist. And also in the sense of having this opportunity for our cooperative economics to move forward. This is just the beginning. So on that note, we never say goodbye, but we say see you later, see you next week. And please don't forget to tell a friend to join us every week, Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for Flip, Floss, and Fly, speaking the financial literacy and the language of the community. So take care, everybody, and we'll see you next week, and stay safe.